In 1 week, everything could be changing for the US dollar. That is because the BRICS nations are coming together for their big event in Russia, and China will be there. And of course, the acceleration to the BRICS currency right now, which is of course based on commodities, based on gold, is accelerating at a pace that the United States has dramatically underappreciated. And they are left right now going to be holding the bag. That's why Trump last week came out and actually talked about this and said, we cannot allow countries to move off the US dollar. That would be like a revolutionary war, he said. Yeah. And of course, the Biden administration is actively freaking out about this. Janet Yellen traveling to China, of course, last week. Antony Blinken also going to China last week and trying to convince Xi Jinping to stop supporting Russia. I mean, now they're freaking out. They literally didn't see this coming. We accelerated this mess because of our sanctions against Russia following the outbreak of war in Ukraine. We pushed Russia to war in Ukraine, and now we're left holding the bag. Yeah, if you need the history of this, of course, going back to 2014, we fomented a coup in Ukraine and pushed NATO right up to their doorstep. And then Russia invades, says we're not going to allow this to happen. We sanction them, actually hurts the United States more than anything. And they're like, oh, really? You're going to sanction us? You don't want to have to do business with us anymore? Fine. We're going to create our own currency, backed by gold, backed by precious metals, and you guys are going to be left holding the bag of the US dollar. We're done. And of course, now we're seeing this acceleration away from the US dollar across the board. So this week, well, last week, I should say, last week we saw a number of African countries coming out and saying, we want to get our gold out of the United States. We want to repatriate our gold, which I also find very interesting. Like, why is there gold stored in the United States anyway? That was news to me. But sure enough, South Africa, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, and others trying to pull their gold out of the United States. So the gold holdings that we try to control in the United States, they're done. They want it out. They want to move it back to their home countries. This is a major move, guys, away from the U.S. dollar hegemony, controlling the entire money supply. So sure, we'll keep our gold in the United States because nothing really is going to happen. You guys control the seas with your Navy. You guys protect trade routes. You guys are the U.S. reserve dollar currency of the world. That's how the entire world operates until it stops operating that way. And now, of course, the pressure from Russia and China against these currencies and against them using the U.S. dollar. I mean, heck, last week we saw Niger, the country of Niger. This is an unbelievable story, right? We see American troops who are not supposed to be there. They've been kicked out, and at this particular airbase, they were not supposed to be there. Russian forces show up, and they go to the airbase, and lo and behold, guess who's there? American forces. Russians and Americans face to face in Niger. And the reason is because Niger called on Russia for security. They don't want the United States there anymore. They're tired of the United States basically stealing their uranium. So they called upon, and the French, by the way. So they called upon Russia for security. So Russian forces show up. There's American forces in a base they're not supposed to be in. Like, this is what's at stake right now, guys. These superpowers are realigning everything. And you're going to see in a week's time on May 14th in Moscow, this big conference with all of the BRICS nations there, and the focus is currency. It's going to be very interesting to see how China involves itself with this, and to a much larger degree, of course, the yuan-backed currency, and in moving fully away from the U.S. dollar. Mark my words. Next week, it's all coming together at the same time, guys. It's the timing of this it's not coincidental. You have the head of the EU, one of the chief diplomats for the European Union, Joseph Borrell, saying that Ukraine is going to collapse in a matter of 2 weeks. Right? He said that the other day. And then BRICS is holding its big conference around currency in 2 weeks. Like, the timing on all of this is so fishy, right? You know that Europe right now wants to put boots on the ground inside of Ukraine. You have French President Macron coming out saying that we cannot rule that out, and that if Russia advances anymore, we should put European forces and boots on the ground inside of Ukraine to stop this. Chief diplomat for the EU comes out and says that Ukraine is about to collapse in 2 weeks. And all of this is to, again, follow the money, follow the gold, follow the money. It was never about democracy, preserving democracy in Ukraine. It was always about the money. and the decline of the U.S. dollar. Western hegemony right now on the decline. I mean, again, you don't come out with, Macron says last week that Europe is facing death. I mean, really? So all of these big moments, all these big words being floated around about the decline of the U.S. dollar, the death of Europe from the French president. Ukraine is about to collapse. And you're seeing this rise of Russia and the BRICS currency right now. And by the way, that's why you're seeing gold prices going up so much. Because we're already such a constrained supply of precious metals that they don't have it. They don't have enough gold to supply this. If they're going to build their entire currency around commodities, specifically gold, there's going to be a lot more mining that's going to need to happen. And of course, a lot of the mining that's going to take place in countries like Papua New Guinea and other places, you're going to see Western influence colliding with European influence and Eastern influence right now, guys. So we're at a really interesting moment. In fact, I penned a new report, co-authored a new report, and